Well, welcome everyone to Enhanced Information Solutions webinar on PI notifications for alarm investigation in a GMP environment. This webinar will be recorded and a link will be emailed to you all following the webinar. So before we get started, here are some Zoom basics. To ask questions, click on the Q&A icon. We will answer your questions either during the dialogue, during the presentations, or at the end of the webinar. After the presentation, after the webinar, you will be prompted for a survey. Please complete the survey so we can properly gauge the value of this engineered solution. So for this webinar today, we have three speakers. Anu Sharma is EIS's technical team lead. He's a PI expert and one of the lead architects of this engineered solution. Carl Curtis is EIS's VP of Business Development with over 20 years experience in the life sciences industry. And me, Jack Audie, I'm EIS's Director of Sales and have over 20 years experience with the deployment and use of PI. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to take a poll of all the attendees. I'm going to submit the poll. Please answer this, and we're going to share the results with everyone. Okay, here's some of our poll results. First question, we currently use PI. True. 89% of you currently use PI, 11% do not. We currently use OpsTrakker. 22% of you use OpsTrakker, 88% of you do not. We use PI event frames for alarm tracking. 11% of you do, 89% of you do not. We use the following MESs: Rockwell PharmaSuite, 25%, Emerson Syncade, 12.5%, PalmsNet, 12.5%, something else, 50%. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to proceed on and we're going to start to thank you for those poll results. And what we're going to do is we're going to proceed on and we're going to describe a little bit of who is EIS. Well, we were founded 26 years ago in Stillwater, Minnesota, providing MES consulting and implementation services, PI services, OT cybersecurity, and we have two products. We have the e-datasheet product. It's a new product. We had a webinar about this about a few weeks ago, and it's for manual entry of data into a PI system. And we have the OpsTrakker product. It's been, it's a well-proven product. It's an electronic logbook with workflow and complete audit trail. We're going to be talking about that today. We are a global company. We are located here in the US in Stillwater, Minnesota. We're also in Toronto, Canada, San Juan, Puerto Rico, Dublin, Ireland, Mannheim, Germany, Pune, India, and Istanbul, Turkey. Well, we have over 20 plus years of PI expertise and provide traditional PI services, the installation of PI systems and interfaces, but we also provide the following services as well: AF development, deployment, PI integrator, process book to PI Vision migration. We also do complete validation services and cybersecurity of OT assets. So today's webinar, we're describing an engineered solution. Now, an engineered solution links together two or more products to solve a given need. While it is not a product, it is far more than an application. It is a complete solution, and it provides technical support and updates for this engineered solution. So many people do use a PI system for alarm notifications of OT devices. Now, it works pretty well in a non-GMP environment, but in a GMP environment, it does lack the following. There's no workflow, no approval process, no audit trail, and the event recording is very minimal. Now, the engineered solution we will be demonstrating leverages PI for the real-time notifications. Now, we're using PI, but it could just as easily be Inmation or another historian. OpsTrakker for approval, workflow, and audit trail. And then Pi event frames for the system of record of the alarm, acknowledgements, approval, and all the workflow. So Anu, could you describe a little bit about the demo we're going to be seeing?
Thank you, Jack. The use case we'll be discussing today in the demo is about temperature sensors. Each room in a building has a temperature sensor with an associated high temperature limit and a low temperature limit. When either of these limits is violated, we want to start a workflow which requires a digital acknowledgement from three stakeholders. Those stakeholders are process engineer, the area manager, and the quality engineer. Next slide, please.
Here we go.
Thank you. When a temperature violation happens, we create an event frame using the Pi system. We create a dynamic URL, which is used to trigger an electronic workflow. The comments and acknowledgements entered by the stakeholders are stored as Pi event frame attributes, the ones that are highlighted here, where they become part of the system of record and are accessible using the Pi native system tools such as Pi Data Link and Pi Vision. Here we are looking at the OpsTrakker form, which is sent to the stakeholders. The dynamic URL being created can auto-populate the fields in the form, and that reduces the manual effort required. For the sake of the demo, we're going to be using the same logon session for acknowledgement from the stakeholders so that we don't need to keep logging in and out repeatedly. The workflow can be set up to have escalation levels with complex logic and rules, where it goes to the stakeholders in a specific order. The OpsTrakker platform is highly customizable. Each step of the workflow can be designed to require digital signatures. And once the workflow is complete, all that data has been entered, the event frame is closed out, and the comments are populated as event frame attributes. Here we are looking at a Pi Vision display. Pi Vision is the native Pi system visualization tool. The table below the trend is the event frame tables. It's a native functionality of the Pi Vision software. This lists all the recent event frames or events of interest along with the associated attributes. This allows for easy visualization of process alarms and the associated data. This is different from event frame acknowledgements, which are stored in event frame annotations, which are not easily visible to the Pi data clients. Once the workflow is completed, OpsTrakker closes out the event frame, and the comments that were entered will be visible in Pi Vision. So now we're going to run through the process, and I'm going to grab the screen here real quick. All right. So a few things to note here are we have the temperature sensor name is TS101 for this demo. We have the associated limits here. The high temperature alarm limit is 30 degrees Fahrenheit, low temperature alarm is 10 degrees, and the temperature is currently 50. So it's violated the high temperature alarm right here. So what we have done is if we go to Pi Vision and we look at the Pi Vision screen, the event frame table lists that active event that's in progress. But this is really useful if you're out in the plant and you will have a vision display in front of you. It will give you visual information about the alarm that's in progress. However, if you're not in front of a screen, because this is part of the Pi ecosystem, you can also have a Pi notification sent to your email. So here we have the Pi notification that creates a dynamic URL for the workflow that's sent out to whoever is registered for it, to the notification, send out in an email. The same URL is also being generated in the workflow link, so you can either access those workflow from either of those two locations. I'm going to go ahead and click on the link in the notification, and that triggers my workflow, which brings me up to the screen right here. As you can see, you have the sensor name that's pre-filled, the temperature at alarm, and the temperature set point, which was violated. This is already pre-populated, which reduces the manual effort required to fill out these forms. So we have that functionality to auto-populate all this information. So I am logged in as the process engineer, which is who was the first stakeholder. I review the alarm, I click save. And that this gives me an error message saying that the value entered is invalid, or it breaks, is outside the exception limit. So we need a comment to continue. I'm gonna click OK. Everything you see here, the OpsTrakker platform is highly customizable. So everything you see here, these type of comments, etc., can be defined based on your use case. So as a process engineer, I've done my research. I went and looked at what happened to the sensor. And my comment is the sensor has failed, will need to be replaced. I will go ahead and click save. And for this comment to be saved, it requires electronic signature. So I'll go ahead and enter my credentials. Next, to finish off this step of the workflow, I will go ahead and enter my credentials again. Done. Now, in this step, since we are now going to be logging in and out as different stakeholders, it goes to the area manager. The area manager can look at the comments that were entered by the process engineer and then go in and add their own comment. Next, I go ahead and click save. Requires electronic signatures. And then I'll go ahead and close this step out. Which finally leads me to the last step, which is the QA review. Again, the QA can go in and look at the comments entered by the area manager as well as the process engineer, and then go and add their own comments. Since the area manager has approved it, quality doesn't have any problems. Quality goes and puts their comment in. Then again, electronic signatures required. And then finally, to close out this step of the workflow, last set of signatures. Done. So in this form, we configured 3 steps requiring acknowledgement from one of the stakeholders each. All of them have put their comments in. So I'm going to go ahead and complete, and this closes out the workflow. This workflow will also close out the event frame in the Pi system. One thing to note here is when I look at these links and buttons up here, you can also attach pictures, logs, anything that the user wants to put in that's relevant to that situation. They can add more information in here. Again, this is all this is configurable and part of the form design, which is highly customizable. If I go back to the Pi asset framework, if I look at the event frames, I see that this event frame has been closed out, and the comments that were entered are part of the event frame attributes, written to event frame attributes. And if I go to Pi Vision, I see that it takes a few minutes, but the Pi event frame table also updates, and that provides a visual confirmation that this event has been acknowledged by the different stakeholders. All right, so that's all I had.
Thank you. Thank you, Anu. All right. So what we did is we illustrated a very simple workflow of alarm sign off with approvals. And what we're going to do now is take a little deeper dive into more detailed workflows, including SOPs and corrective actions. Carl, can you show us a little bit more about OpsTrakker?
So what we're going to show now is the power of OpsTrakker. So OpsTrakker, the goal of OpsTrakker is to help remove paper, help walk operators through a series of steps. But really our goal is to take all the frustrations you have with your current systems and try and solve those around, no customization, around easy and quick deployments, around easy use for authoring, etc. And this is important. What I'm about to say is really, really important. Our philosophy is around the simpler, how easy or how simple we keep things is directly correlated to how the cost is to maintain it. So we've created a very powerful workflow engine that is very easy to use and simple. And so what we want to show you now is a more complex workflow and just how easy it is for the operator to go through that. So picture this as a corrective action. So let's say now we have a corrective action where we need to clean a room. So I just go to my equipment list, and here's all, in a sense, equipment in my system. And I can easily, 3 clicks in from the home page, get the list of forms, and launch the room cleaning logbook. Left-hand side are the steps to execute, right-hand side are the details. So OpsTrakker's philosophy is configuration, no customization. And so really, when I'm building out a workflow, when I'm building out a series of steps for the operator to perform, it's really just leveraging out-of-the-box building blocks. And how I order these building blocks during authoring will determine the process the operator is going to work through. So I'm going to highlight some of these building blocks as I go through. But really, that's where the power is. It's just dragging and dropping these building blocks around and ordering them and configuring them in the method that you want. So in this corrective action, I'm going to take this room and get it into a state of clean. So the very first step is I'm going to choose my cleaning agent and the expiration date. Everything in OpsTrakker is configurable. So right now I am have this step configured for 2 signatures. I could have had no signatures to capture just the logon user, or etc. 1 signature, etc. Next step is routine. Is this a routine or non-routine cleaning? We can hide steps. So our philosophy again is to only show to the operator the steps that they need to do. All right. Again, reduce human error, reduce discrepancies, etc. We never want to really NA a step. So in theory, if I choose a routine cleaning, it's going to hide this step, next step, which is for if I chose a non-routine, you would want to capture the work order or the CR number. So I'm just going to choose a routine and skip that step. Here you can see the various statuses that this room's in. So right now, the biweekly cleaning expires on 29th of April. The monthly cleaning expires on the 26th of May, and the daily cleaning is due. So I'm just going to choose the daily cleaning. And again, the system will guide you through what steps you need to perform for the daily cleaning. So in this case, for daily cleaning, it hid all the items. And in this case, I just have to do the floor cleanings. And then once I complete any of the activities that I need to do for the floor cleaning, it will take me to the set the status of this piece of this room from cleaning required to a clean state. Once I've signed off, the status has changed. And I'll complete this. So that's a very quick example of saying, hey, let me walk the operator through the steps to clean a room. Obviously, we can add more steps, make it more complex, follow your processes. Some other features that we want to show you is around, the ability to integrate in real time with, various process variables. So we're just going to use a quick example of our a scale and a daily weight check. Here's an example of a display instruction building block. Again, displaying a set of activities to the operator. We integrate with your EDMS system to bring up reference documents. So in this case, pull up an SOP in your EDMS system. Here's the example of displaying multiple items in a field. In this case, we're displaying a pick list where you're selecting multiple items and then select a date. We can add as many fields or whatever data you want captured onto the screen. Everything can be scanned in by a barcode as well and verified. Again, we talk about how we want to keep things easy to view, simple for the operator. Here's one of these items is around PIN authentication. After I've entered my complex password, If I'm on my tablet, it's really hard to keep going and keep entering these complex passwords. And so we have a concept around PIN authentication, so you can enter a PIN instead of a password. Here's an example of using APIs. So right now, I just grabbed the temperature. I'm based in California, in San Francisco. This was a reading off of our thermostat in our offices in Minnesota. So right now, it's 74 degrees in that. But again, that seamless integration, it's so frustrating in the why things can't more integrate like the consumer space, where if I get a new device, you know, a smart plug or whatnot, and I want to connect it with my Alexa, it's seamless. I don't need to call a consultant. But here in the GMP space or in the enterprise software space, you always have to bring in consultants to do this out of the box or build out this integration. And this is all out of the box. Here's another example of just using REST APIs. This is just grabbing the temperature for me in Burlingame. We're up in the city south of San Francisco. But we can have all sorts of different integration points that we can push and pull information in and out of OpsTrakker. Believing in that philosophy around being connectable, making sure that other systems can connect to us, and being connected, making sure that we can go connect to other systems. Really critical. And as you expect in any electronic system, making sure that we're trying to reduce errors. So in this case, we have instructions where, hey, for this example, tolerances of between 19.98 and 20 on this weight. And if I exceed those tolerances, forcing exceptions. Obviously, the range, I'm exceeded those ranges, and then walking through and recording that. There's just a lot of little things that we put a lot of thought into this solution. So for example, if I start typing here, it's going to automatically search and pull up, in a sense, the text. So I can almost standardize my comment text I'm putting in. I have to sign off for this exception. And then I sign off for the step. And then like any other process, we'll do another weight check real quick. If you saw that as well, there's masking. I can put masking here. So if I needed like significant digits, I could put x.xx or just a hint to the operator. In this case, we just said enter weight to reading. I'm just going to put a valid value, sign off. And the very last step is to set the status. Again, right now we're in a state of not weight check, and we're performing some sort of action where we want to get that piece of equipment in a state of not weight check after we completed. Really, though, the key here is that that workflow engine works regardless of it's a piece of equipment or a simple batch record or eForms. eForms is really the catch-all. Any piece of paper that you can leverage to make it electronic inside of OpsTrakker. So I do want to highlight as well is there's a whole slew of out-of-the-box APIs that we have available. Again, going back to that, how do I make it easy to use? How do I keep things simple? So these are all APIs that we can leverage right from the get-go. The nice thing here is that, again, if I needed to put equipment statuses or locations or whatnot, all out of the box, it's available. And I can show you, in a sense, a great example of these APIs in work is potentially, here's an iPad. This, we have apps for it for OpsTrakker, so I could definitely launch this and run it on an iPad without an issue. But what I want to show you now is just using Google Assistant and just using APIs and bring up equipment statuses. So I'm just going to click on the Google Assistant icon. Talk to OpsTrakker. It's getting OpsTrakker. Equipment status 23458. And here it is. It's bringing up the status of this piece of equipment 23458. Again, it's a piece of device, Google Assistant. We control nothing on this, and Google is able to go and grab the statuses off of our equipment just by voice. Again, that's the power of IoT coming together and such. So we're really excited about this product. We think we have a lot of great offerings in it, and we'd be happy to show you more about it in a demo. I'll pass this with that. I'll pass this back to Jack.
All right, thank you. Okay, to recap, we had an alarm condition that generated an event frame with a URL for acknowledgement. This alarm condition was propagated by a PI notification. We used this URL to launch OpsTrakker, and from there, we had a response. We had a workflow. We had a simple workflow where it was simply acknowledgement with the 3 different stakeholders. We also showed another type of workflow where we actually had corrective actions. All these actions were recorded in event frames as AF attributes, event frame attributes. So we had some questions during the webinar, so let's go over them now. Where will the comments and electronic signatures be stored? In the PI system? The answer is yes. The comments and electronic signatures are stored in PI as event frame attributes, not event frame annotations, event frame attributes. Is OpsTrakker also fully connectable with OSI Pi? Yes, OpsTrakker is fully connected to Pi via the Pi Web API and other OT devices via APIs, as was shown in the OpsTrakker demo. So just to be clear, can create new tags in Pi Data Archive, then pull in AF attributes? Yes, via the Pi Web API, OpsTrakker can connect to Pi tags, AF, and event frames. Is the tool accessible in real time on tablets? Yes, OpsTrakker is native HTML5, and there's also an app on the App Store for tablets. If the responses are stored as event frame attributes, are they also stored in OpsTrakker? Yes, responses are also stored in OpsTrakker. In some cases, OpsTrakker is the system of record if there's no historian, but we also store it in Pi, but we also keep a copy in OpsTrakker. Can corrective actions be linked in an attached SOP or video? Yes, absolutely. Corrective actions can be referenced from external sources and including videos. I believe we showed an example of that. So with that said, I want to thank you all for attending our webinar. At the end of this webinar, please take the survey. We would appreciate you taking this and give us some feedback on how we're doing. If you have any questions, we can follow up with any additional information. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me, jack@eisinc.com, and my phone number is right here. Thank you again.